Hi there, this is Danielle Dunlap for Pawsome Stamps, and today I'm going to show you a card from start to finish with the new Snail Mail stamp set and Radiant Burst background stencil from the February release. I'm starting with stamping the images I'm going to use for my card, which is 2 of the snails, the envelopes, the mailbox, and 3 pieces of the grass. And once I have them stamped, I die cut them, and now I'm going to color all the pieces. And for my grass, I'm using my favorite greens, YG01, YG03, and YG04. And I start with the lightest, then go darker for some shading, and then I go back in my color combination again, and lastly I fill it up with the lightest YG01. For the body of the snails, I wanted to go with a lilac color combination, and my lightest is going to be Phi 000, and I'm going to put a layer down of that first where my shadow is going to be, and then I'm going to add my shadows with Phi 01, and then the darkest Phi 15. And once I'm happy with my shadow, I'm going to blend it out again with Phi 01. And then I'm going to fill up the entire body of the snail with Phi 000. I'm only going to show you on one snail, but I did the exact same thing for the second snail. For one of the snail houses, I'm going with an orange color. I'm starting here with the lightest Y38. And then I'm adding my shadows with YG04 and YG09. And as you've seen me do before with this orange color combination, I just go back and forth and I keep blending with the YG04. Now I'm going to the last part, the inner circle, and I'm going to have that a little bit darker just to give it a better definition. For the other snail house, I'm using a color combination that you've seen me use before as well. It's R81, R83, and R85. But recently I added a few new colors to my Copic collection, and one of them is R89. So it's a darker version of this color combination, and I really like how it can give a little more of a darker shadow to this color combination. I felt like I was missing that somewhat when I was using these 3 colors. And I'm very happy the way this one is turning out now. So I colored it piece by piece, so there's different layers in this snail house. And I just did one piece at a time. I find that better, or easier actually, to get a nice blend. For the dots on the snail house, I'm just simply using the darkest of these colors, the R89. The mailbox for my card is going to be teal, and I'm using BG11, BG32, and BG13. And I'm starting with the lightest, BG11. I'm just putting a layer down, and then I'm adding in the BG32. My BG13 markers need some love, actually. I managed to keep using it for this card. But after I finished this card, I definitely had to refill this marker. And I also needed a new brush tip. I use this color a lot on my cards. So it was definitely in need of some love. So here I'm blending out with BG32 and BG11. And I'm keeping that lightest part of the mailbox very, very light. I didn't go over it too much. I did the same for the pole there in the mailbox. And now I'm finishing up the last pieces. It's all going to be the same color. Off camera, I colored the heart in the bundle of envelopes and the stamp on the other set of envelopes with RV13 and RV14. And I wanted the envelopes to have somewhat of a color, but not too much. Just coloring them light gray, as I sometimes do, felt like it was not enough. So I used one of my other new markers that I got recently, BG70, and I used a shadow of BG72 with that. There's quite a difference in darkness with these two colors, so I had to keep going back and forth and keep blending quite a lot, but I do like the color I eventually got. So it's still a very light envelope, but there's enough definition than just coloring them with some C00 and C0 that I often do with envelopes. And the small details that you can see of some of the other envelopes, I wanted those to have a different color. So I used YR20 and YR21. Now that my images are colored, I'm going to work on the background of my card. And I marked some area off with some masking tape. And the entire top part of my card is going to be ink blended with Distress Oxide ink scattered straw. At this point, I realized I wanted this panel to be a little smaller than my card base. So I ran it through a die cut machine with a stitched die cut. So now it's a little bit smaller than the 5.5 by 4.25 inch. Then I added the Radium Burst background stencil from the February release. And I applied some Spiced Marmalade Distress Oxide ink. Initially, I used Wild Honey, but it was not dark enough, so I went a little brighter with the Spiced Marmalade one. This is always my favorite part, revealing the result. And I wanted a bit of a sparkle in my background, so I decided to trace these stencil lines with the Quickie glue pen and then add some glitter to it. And you will see the final result. Now it kind of looks like the orange is going to be covered up. But once this glitter is dry, or actually the glue is dry, you can perfectly see that orange shining through. Because of the entire inked up background, you're going to have some loose glitter all over that background. It's not a problem. Just wait until you have all your pieces glittered up. And once it's all dry, and it dries pretty quickly with the Quickie glue pen, you can just use a brush and wipe all the excess glitter off. And now it's time to get my masking tape off. And this is the point where you realize you should not die cut after you have that masking tape on. So I got a little oopsie where I kind of ripped that stitch part of the die cut. Just wait for it. Here comes the oopsie. I like to show you these oopsies so you won't make the same mistakes I make. But I was able to solve it later on when I apply this panel to my card base. I just cover it up with some foam tape. Now I'm first going to add the sentiment to my background, and I'm using the Happy Belated Birthday, which I think is perfect with these snails. And I'm putting that on that white part of the card. And now it's time to build up my scene. I ended up using only 2 of those grass pieces. If you use those grass pieces together, you're going to get some of an overlap. And it was easier with just these two pieces to have one overlap part that I can easily cover up later on with one of the snails. I didn't put glue on the tips of the grass, so now that I can easily wiggle that mailbox behind the grass there, which I thought looked way better than putting the mailbox on top of it. Now for the snails, I'm going to use two different thicknesses of the foam squares. I'm using 1/8 of an inch and 1/16 of an inch. And I like to mix those up on a card to create different layers. And I'm using the thinner foam squares on the big snail. So that one is going to be in the back. And then I'm using the thicker foam squares for the snail that goes in the front. And it just gives some extra dimension to your card. I'm adding a foam square to that stack of envelopes as well. And I'm going to place that on the ground against the mailbox. I added some foam squares to the back of this panel, and here you can see me fixing that oopsie that we had earlier. I just put some foam squares there so it cannot rip apart again. And now it is time to add this panel to my card base. I'm really happy the way this card turned out, and I'm in love with that sparkly sunrise there behind those snails. I hope you enjoyed watching this card come together. Do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.